On this Sunday evening, another edition of NBA Weekly on the NBA Report. CP the Franchise, Alex Rotaros, Andrew Salop, the 1-2 combo in the building. On today's episode, we're going to react to the Celtics and the Bucks matchup earlier this week. Is that a potential Eastern Conference Finals matchup? And we'll give you our key takeaways. Plus, the Houston Rockets are surging. Rockets in the middle of an 8-game winning streak. Is it time to consider them in the play-in? And are the Lakers and the Warriors in trouble? Plus, we'll give you our biggest surprises, biggest disappointments in the NBA. And the NBA shuts down the G League Ignite, man. We'll tell you what that means and why that went down. But in the meantime, hit the like button, hit the share button, and subscribe to the channel. Another edition of NBA Weekly on the NBA Report, man. Salute, salute, salute. All right, fellas, how you feeling, man? Good weekend?
It was a good weekend, Got to celebrate my sister and her fiance.
Nice.
At their baby shower, so salute to them. Salute to Corey and salute to Andy on their upcoming baby girl. So it was a good weekend.
Nice.
How's your guys' weekend?
Oh, we lost Andrew's audio. Check your audio. We got Andrew's audio. Mine was cool, though. I had the homie's 40th birthday party, so was out in Union City last night, chilling with the homies. Yeah, did a little work, caught up. It was nice. Weather was it was a rainy day Saturday, so
it was awful.
Yeah, we had Knicks versus Nets post game, so took care of that.
There you go.
And then that was that, man. Salute to everybody in the chat once again. Hit that thumbs up button for you boys. Salute to John Talento. Salute to Kane Marco. I would just wait for Andrew's audio to catch up. Andrew, how you looking? All right, I just got no audio. Kane, salute. All right, Al, in the meantime, man, Celtics and the Bucks this week went down in Boston. No Giannis for the Bucks, no Drew Holiday or Hauser for the Celtics. Celtics leading by as much as 21 in this game, end up winning by 3, 122 to 119, man. Did you take anything away from this game, this matchup of two of the Eastern Conference best teams, rather?
Look, I mean, I think it was started at the beginning of the season where it was kind of written where you're going to have these two teams as potential playoff matchups, potentially in the Eastern Conference Finals. So no shocker here, but look, I think the thing that you see about these teams is that
Mike check.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah,
there he is. There's Andrew. Now he's back. But the thing that you see about both of these teams is that they're both capable of playing with when they're down guys, and that they can keep going out there and competing. So it was a good performance by both teams, in my opinion. But look, they're destined just because of the talent that you have. You can't throw, Tatum and Brown out the window, and you can't throw Dame and Giannis out the window. I think it's just the status quo at this point for both those teams.
Yeah, Andrew, the Bucks are your team, man. No Giannis in this one, but Dame still went out there and did his thing. What'd you take away from this game on Wednesday night?
I guess the easy takeaway, if I'm sticking to the Bucks narrative, is it was a close game and they didn't even have Giannis, right? But yeah, I do think going down the line here as we move in towards the play-ins and the playoffs, Doc Rivers has to do a great job of, I think, even featuring Dame as his number one guy, and Giannis is going to get his no matter what, because Dame has looked a lot better without Giannis, and I think they have to recreate some of what they did, some of what Dame did. It would have been good if Terry Stotts got to stay, right? But that didn't last too long. It'd be good if they could recreate some of what they did with Dame with the Blazers. But, just featuring Dame here is going to be really important, because I think he's going to be the guy who needs the basketball when the game is on the line in the playoffs. So they have to do a better job of building chemistry with Giannis and Dame.
Yeah, you're definitely right. I mean, Giannis is having outstanding numbers, definitely MVP caliber numbers, but their chemistry heading into the playoffs is going to be important. But I do think it is good experience, not necessarily experience, but it kind of, maybe this is something that really gets Damian Lillard going it's been a rocky road for him this season. He's in the middle of a divorce, had a lot of personal stuff going on. Then he moves from Portland, where he's been for, double digits of years, and then he's going over to the Bucks. So a big adjustment period for him, both personally and professionally. Maybe this without Giannis is, a time for Dame to kind of get comfortable with his offense, and that's kind of what I saw in this game against the Celtics, where he didn't have his top guy, but the Bucks still needed him, especially in crunch time. And the Bucks did have a pretty outstanding fourth quarter in terms of trying to get back into this. But maybe this is something that helps Dame Lillard get back on track for these Bucks, man, as they head to the final stretch.
And you're going to see Dame just be able to thrive in these type of environments when there is no Giannis, right? And he's been used to that for the most part of his career. Even with CJ McCollum on his team in Portland, he was always the face of the franchise, the guy. It's always Dame time. So to have no Giannis in this matchup, he got to go back to those old roots of being out in Portland, right? So it makes sense that he looks comfortable in this situation. But to Andrew's point, Doc is going to have to figure out how to blend both of those guys together. And see, I mean, we've all talked about this in the past where Giannis can be that guy that's between the 20s for them, right? He'll get you the 50 points, however many points you need, the rebounds, everything to put you in position. But then you have Damian Lillard, who's a certified closer, and that's where Dame time comes in. So as long as you have those guys working in tandem where Giannis can just put this game in position for Dame to seal the deal, then you're doing a good job either way as the Milwaukee Bucks. But it's no surprise he's able just to go out there and perform without Giannis. The thing is, though, they have to coexist. And maybe it's not this season, maybe it's the future seasons, but there's enough talent on this team where it should be interesting come postseason.
Yeah. I got to think, one of the things I'm looking at here, because, as we always say, Giannis and Dame will be able to keep these guys in a lot of games, especially in the playoffs. But if they do see the C's in an Eastern Conference Finals, and right now the way these guys are at 1 and 2, that would be the most likely path if it stays that way. I got to see what the Bucks' defensive strategy will be down the stretch in certain games. Like, will they stay big with Lopez? Because with the Celtics' ability to space you out, we just showed one highlight here of Jason Tatum, taking I think it was taking Malik Beasley off the dribble, but you had both the Celtics bigs spaced out in the corners, and that just creates a huge gap there where it's basically, shoot the fair one, me versus you, who gets to the cup first, and that's advantage Celtics all day. So I think that's going to be interesting to see what type of, does Doc go small and go Giannis at the 5, Portis at the 4, take out Lopez, so you have a little bit more agility on your perimeter, so that if the Celtics do space you out, you're not hurting as much.
Yeah, it's been 5 out, the whole year for them. So it's gonna be interesting. I don't know how. Also, with the Celtics, I wanted to say, did you guys see in that game, it always feels like I'm anti-Celtics, but they couldn't put this team away really without Giannis. And a lot of that was because they went back to some of their weaknesses that they've had in the past, just too much isolation with all their players. I know they're going 5 out. I know they're spacing them out, but too much pounding, too much isolation, not enough ball movement. I feel like at times they did that better this season, but I think that's still a weakness of theirs, and they have to make sure they don't revert back to that in the playoffs.
To me, it's like when I watch these games with the Celtics, I think they get a little too reliant on Brown and Tatum, and more so Tatum than Brown, just because they like to feature Tatum a little bit more than Brown. But you see that the ball will swing and then it will stick to their hands. And if not stick to their hands after it swings to every other teammate, or you want Tatum and Brown to be those initiators, sometimes I feel like they go a little too into their isolation game, trying to be that guy. Right. And then it just kind of makes this choppy flow of a basketball game. And look, whenever I watch the Knicks play the Celtics and I'm at TD Garden, it always looks a little choppy. Look, in this game, they had 25 assists as a team as a whole, but it's never as fluid as you would say, like from the Pacers or even any other team that knows how to facilitate the rock, even like the Golden State Warriors, like how they move it around, Sacramento Kings. That's not really the Boston Celtics game. That's what you have Drew Holiday there for. That's what you have Derek White there for. But it just feels like a lot of guys who are just capable of contributing in different areas rather than guys who just know how to share the rock and know how to play off each other's strength at every single moment of the game.
Yeah, it does feel contagious with Tatum on down when it comes to that like isocentric type basketball, and they're going to
your favorite guy, Andrew.
I think that is what makes this team so fascinating. And shoot to everybody in the chat once again. Hit that thumbs up button for you boys. CP, Alex, and Andrew in the building. The NBA Report is back for a Sunday night show. I think what makes it very interesting with this team is, wrap the regular season up like they are the kings of the East. They won't be caught. They're separated. These two teams are separated by like 11 games. So that's done. Their record is fantastic. Their differential is championship caliber at Boston. They're 11.1 in differential so far. The top 10 teams in NBA history, if the season were to end today, they would have the sixth best differential of all time. Sixth best of all time, right under the 9-6, 9-7 Bulls. All right. Number one team was the 71-72 Lakers. They won the championship. 12.3 was their differential. 9-5, 9-6 Bulls. That was the 72-10 team. They went 12-2 differential. The Warriors team, who beat that Bulls team record, it was fourth at 11.6. So, Celtics they're in NBA history territory with their differential, how dominant they've been. They clear. I still don't think they're better than Denver, and in a final series, I still think Denver is the favorite. But which Celtics team shows up in the playoffs is going to be key here, because regular season they've been so dominant. Can they carry that over into the postseason where things are going to tighten up? Their bench is going to have to come to play. Peyton Pritchard has played fantastic. Sam Hauser as well has had a great stretch. Are they going to show up in a big spot in the postseason? Are they susceptible again to the Miamis, to the Milwaukees, to the Knicks of the world? I think that's going to be key there, man.
You mentioned Peyton Pritchard. I love Peyton Pritchard's game. I would say, though, when you start playing against teams like even the Miami Heat, where Jimmy Butler starts targeting people, like he's an assassin in the playoffs.
Yeah.
You start looking at guys like Peyton Pritchard, like we're going to go right at him. And, he struggled in the playoffs in the past, and I know he's one of their top 7 or so guys. So that's going to be important for them. But, that's one of the reasons why playoff basketball is just so different,
Yeah.
And we're going to have to see if these guys like Hauser and Pritchard could get major minutes and not be an issue defensively on the perimeter.
Yeah, the depth of the Celtics is going to come into question. Hard time, in the playoffs, because that's the biggest weakness everyone's talked about throughout the regular season, and you can even see it yourselves, right? If they're not staggering Brown and Tatum, that team is lackluster, right? You can't really rely on Pritchard, Hauser, Al Horford. There's just a lot of guys that you can't count on to give you that same production if both those guys aren't on the court. Thankfully, that's what they do. They split those guys, but I don't know if even those guys being split with Tatum and Brown will give you enough firepower. It really feels like the starting 5 plus Horford are going to be the guys that you have to rely on for 38 minutes, night in and night out when it comes to postseason.
Those are going to be your guys, man. So to everybody in the chat, once again, hit that thumbs up button for you boys. On to the next topic, fellas. Don't look now, but the H-Town Rockets are on a rocket, man. 8-game winning streak. They're now 35-35. Beat the brakes out of the Utah Jazz the other night with an NBA high 27 three-pointers made. This is a team that was like middle of the pack in terms of three-pointers made and percentage. 27 threes in this game. They've scored at least 125 points in 3 straight games, and now moved to within 1.5 games of the Warriors for that final play-in seed. And you got Jalen Green, who's been on a tear after they disrespected him and his baby mama. He's been dunking on everybody. He's been breaking ankles, taking names. 41 points the other night against the Jazz. 42 points. In his last 5 games, he scored 172 points in his last 5 games, the most by Rockets since James Harden 2019-2020. Al, what do you think about this Rockets team, man? Is the surge for real?
You said it first and foremost, and they've been doing this without Sengun, right? On this,
yeah.
I mean, this 8-game winning streak. Keep in mind, for that 8-game winning streak, they had Sengun for 2 games. All right, the last 6, it's really been the Jalen Green show since then, and he's been averaging 30 points. He's averaging 29.3, 29 points, essentially 30, close to it, on 52% shooting from the field, 45% shooting from downtown on 9 attempts from downtown. Guys, he is letting that thing fly. hitting 77% of his free throws. Dude's averaging close to 4 assists per game, getting 6 boards.
Yeah.
He's just on one, man. He's got a plus 14. I'm not a big plus minus guy, but the eye test alone is just telling you how much Jalen Green is doing for this Houston Rockets team. And he's just been a dog. He's been a dog for this team. You know, obviously with the guys at Dylan Brooks and Fred VanVleet, they've been good too for this roster. But when you watch Jalen Green and what he's done these last 8 games, it's just otherworldly. And it's not shocking that they're on an 8-game winning streak. Now, the thing is, like, do I believe them? They could get feisty and go get into the play. And I feel like they're capable of doing that. You know, they were in that range at the beginning of the season. They play hard-nosed defense. But the thing that is, can Jalen Green keep up this type of performance? Because it feels like this is the type of scoring they needed in order to catapult themselves, right? They're a good, well-rounded team, you know, and a good, well-rounded team can only take you so far. You need that certified star. Well, Jalen Green's been playing like a certified star in these last 8 games. Can he continue to do that forward, or is this a flash in the pan? That's the big question. I don't see him being able to maintain averaging 29 going into the postseason, even the play-in. I think that's going to fall back a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, since when I first watched Jalen Green play back in Summer League 2 years ago, it was apparent that he obviously could get his own shot off whenever he wanted to. And the biggest thing is that was the efficiency going to get there? Right. And that's the difference maker right now when it comes to the efficiency. So as long as he's making shots, it sounds simple. Everything else will be all right because he has a ridiculous first step and he can get his shot off effortlessly.
Yeah, he's been an absolute problem for them. You have to give him a lot of credit for sticking with it, and really, man, he's been taking off. He's been killing, like you said, Al. Month of March, he's 10-1 in the month of March. They're 10-1 in month of March. He's averaging 27 points per game, 51% from the field, and 41% from downtown. So those are pretty electric numbers by him. Now, you know, I also we got to give Udoka a lot of credit, man. I think this is around the level in terms of where they are in the West. That's about where I expected them to be this year. Not necessarily a playing team, but a vastly improved team with the veteran additions of Fred VanVleet, Dylan Brooks. Jeff Green has brought a lot to that team. You have Jabari Smith Jr. taking a step up in his sophomore year. Alperen Sengun, when he's been healthy, has been killing it. He's been Jokic-like. And now you have Jalen Green taking a late surge. And so you got to give Udoka a lot of credit. It's unfortunate that, you know, the personal issues that he had kind of overshadowed his coaching ability and to be a leader of a team and to be a leader of men. You know, this is a guy who around the league garners a lot of respect. And so you kind of forget about that when he gets mired in a lot of the personal stuff that saw him ousted in Boston. But, yeah, you can't forget, this is a championship caliber coach here, and now you're starting to see some of the talent take shape around him in Green, in Sengun, and in Jabari Smith Jr., and this is a team that's in great shape, man. They got the Nets pick in the first round this year. That's 8th best odds right now in the draft. Whether or not you like the talent, they still got an opportunity to continue to upgrade this team. They have more Nets picks in the future. So I think they're set up very well, man, with a budding core, good coach, and some draft capital to either trade or to keep and make the team better.
I totally agree. I also think it's great that they're in development mode and not in tank mode. And I think Dylan Brooks and Fred VanVleet have brought so much to this team. They're not in a losing atmosphere, these young players. And I think that's been really great for their development. And I think it's the right way to go. I think trying to be a winning team while you're developing your players is a lot better than just being in straight tank mode. So those were great signings in the offseason. It's such an interesting paradox that Alperen Sengun has been out and now we see the emergence of Jalen Green. I don't think it's a connection, but it is really interesting.
It is interesting, and somebody in the chat mentioned the same thing. Michael Powell says, great to see him scoring with Sengun injured. I mean, that happens when you take a high-usage player out of a lineup. Like, it just happens. Mm-hmm. Like, other guys are ultimately going to get more opportunities. The key will be how they play off of each other, which I think they can, and, you know, that will take some time and some chemistry to develop. Al, what do you think about their chances in the West? Can they break the play-in? 1.5 games left.
Well, if I'm looking at strength of schedule for the Houston Rockets, according to Tankathon, they have the 11th toughest schedule to finish out the season. And who does that consist of? It is the Trailblazers next, the Thunder, the Utah Jazz, Dallas Mavericks, Timberwolves, Warriors, Miami Heat. You play the Mavericks again, the Orlando Magic, Utah Jazz again, Portland Trailblazers, and you finish the season off with the LA Clippers. That's a tough slate because you got to play the Mavericks twice, the Timberwolves, the Warriors, who are looking to keep that same spot that we're talking about, the Miami Heat, the Orlando Magic, like that, and OKC. Like that's no easy task for these Houston Rockets. Now, could they go on a little winning streak and do it? I personally don't believe so. I think it comes to an end after Portland, just because I don't think they're good enough to beat OKC. I think OKC is just too talented. They could beat Utah. I think Dallas has just too much top-heavy talent with Kyrie and Luka that I don't think they have enough to stop either one of those guys. Minnesota, they're just tough defensively. I sure they could make it close, but I don't see them necessarily taking them out. And then the Clippers at the end of the season. That's just too much, man. So could they? Yeah, I think they need a little help from the Lakers and the Warriors to take a step back in order for them to do that, and that's totally possible. But I think it ends here because when you look at this 8-game winning streak they were on, guys, they beat Portland first, then the Kings, who are no easy matchup.
Yeah.
Then you get the Spurs, Wizards, Cavs, Wizards again, Bulls, Jazz. So awesome that they went on an 8-game winning streak. Very, very tough thing to do. Very impressive. But that slate doesn't really tell me that they're legitimate, considering before they went on an 8-game winning streak, they lost to the Clippers. So I don't know. That's what I think, though. That's what I think. They could completely shock me, but I'm not buying it. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
I think you're right.
I think this is where they come back to the pack. 7 of their next 9 is against playoff teams, with teams that are fighting for something. And so I think that is going to hurt this team as they, look to try to make it. And, the Lakers, they play Golden State, who's going to be looking to put them away and solidify their spot in the play-in. They got to play OKC. They're at OKC. They got to play Dallas twice in that stretch, home and away. You got to play Miami, who's fighting for something. Minnesota's fighting for first. Orlando's fighting for seeding. Like, every one of these teams, nobody is set here. Nobody's taking off, and you're going to get their best shot. So I think this is where things will sort of, even themselves out for the Rockets. But nevertheless, good year for them. Andrew, final point on the Rockets.
I want to hear your guys' thoughts on if you think there's a chance that their main guy going forward could be Jalen Green, because he was in trade talks earlier this season, which is kind of crazy. And another way you could look at it is you could probably get more than ever right now if you did want to trade him. So that's another interesting way to look at it. It just depends on how much you believe in Alperen Sengun, which I believe in him a lot. Do you believe in Jalen Green even more? Do you believe they could play together and get the best version of both of them?
Right.
Like you guys see with your New York Knicks. Jalen Brunson became Jalen Brunson partly because he had the opportunity in New York to not play alongside a guy named Luka Doncic, right? Yeah. And get more usage and be able to thrive. So it's going to be interesting to see how they move forward.
Andrew, wasn't it you that said a big and a guard are the good pairings to have in the league? Was it you?
Yeah, I think when you have like Jokic and Jamal Murray, where they're both kind of could play point guard and they both kind of could play off the ball. I mean, I don't see Jalen Green as a guy who plays off the ball that well.
Right.
And then also you got Amen Thompson, he's another guy he's playing some small ball 5 actually, but he's naturally like a point guard. He just can't shoot it yet. He's playing really well. So I think that makes sense in a lot of ways, but for them, I don't know if Jalen Green has the versatility.
Right.
Like a Jamal Murray to be, his Jokic. Actually, Fred VanVleet is the perfect fit with Alperen Sengun.
Yes.
Because his ability to play on and off the ball is amazing. They're like Jokic Murray light.
Yeah. I think for Green in his evolution is, what type of playmaking chops will he develop?
Yeah.
Can he make his team better? Sengun is showing that ability. And then, as you said, if you're looking for that Jokic Murray effect, you need somebody that can play off of him, and it's not going to need the ball as much, because a guy like a Sengun, a guy like a Jokic, you want them to kind of be the brain of that offense, the hub of the offense. So I think that's going to be their next challenge as they build this team. But it will be fascinating to watch for sure. Will definitely be fascinating to watch. All right, man, as we move forward, there's only about three weeks left in the regular season. So with that being said, I mean, I think we can make pretty decent conclusions in terms of our biggest surprises and our biggest disappointments in the league this year. So, Al, I'll start with you, man. Disappointment-wise, who's been your biggest disappointment? Which team has been your biggest disappointment this year?
Biggest disappointment for me is the Memphis Grizzlies, CP and Andrew,
Ooh,
because I was looking forward to them getting Marcus Smart. You know, you get Derrick Rose as a good veteran leader for Ja Morant. I was expecting Ja to come back, and then you could start taking off. And look, I talked about it with Andrew. I was like, yo, this team could be scary. Maybe they take out the Pelicans and, you know, usurp them in their goal in trying to make the playoffs this year after having a rough start. And injury after injury after injury, and it just stinks, man, because this is a team with talent, and now it's like it's a down year. They're 24-47 right now. You don't really get to see much of what you have, and I just feel like you don't even really know what to add to this roster, right? You don't even know if what you have in Marcus Smart is a good fit. You don't even know if he's really even that good of a veteran for this team right now. So I feel like they make a big move this offseason, and we don't even get to see it come to fruition. So it's still a TBD for me. But sometimes in this NBA landscape, a TBD, you know, where you lose a year, it doesn't really help your team because now you're stuck in that limbo and you don't know what the next move is. And it kind of just puts you in this limbo of like, all right, well, other teams are getting better. Where do we need to add in our development process, in our plan making? Who do we need to add to this roster to take us to that next level? I feel like they just lost a year of doing so. While, you know, the way that Ja Morant plays, he's not a lights out shooter. He's a guy that uses his athleticism to get to the rim, and that only lasts for so long. So until Ja could show that he could provide like a solid jumper and be consistent from you know, mid range and 3-point land, I feel like this team is just like you're looking for Desmond Bane to take that next step. You're looking for Triple J to take that next step, and now you're still just waiting to see where Marcus Smart fits in this entire equation.
Yeah, that's a bad thing, but you know what? A good thing? Hey, Gigi Jackson emerged on the scene as an explosive rookie, man. After he came in with, you know, a tarnished reputation at a young age, he seems right now very coachable and is playing like a high level, man. He's looking like PG Light out there, Andrew.
Yeah, he looks great, and I love that moment he had with Shaq. And it's funny, like I feel like the narrative shifted on him right there, where he was talking to Shaq at the post game, and he's just like, my God, like he was so happy. He had that joy of a kid, like just to be talking to Shaq. And he had this like stigma that he wasn't coachable. He was a bad guy in college and all this stuff. And I think that shifted right here. But he always had that isolation bag since college. I mean, that guy could really score the basketball. He's tall. He's athletic. He has an NBA style game. He fits in the league so well. So it is great to see him doing well. Al, that's actually a great disappointed team. It's probably more disappointing than my team, which is the LA Lakers. Because, I mean, everybody said this team had a great offseason, you know, all the right pickups. D'Lo is back. Austin Reeves is going to take a leap since he got paid now. You know, everything's cool with him. But I never seen more of a roller coaster season from a basketball standpoint and even a media standpoint. One day it's, can this team win a championship? Next day it's, can this team make the play-ins? I mean, with the Rockets rolling, right? This is it looks like it's going to be Warriors Lakers. My thing for that, I think they need to change the venue for Warriors Lakers. I think they need to hype this up, put it in a bigger venue, Steph versus LeBron, make it big, put it in a football arena, do something, because one of those guys might not be playing in the playoffs. But let me ask you guys this about the Lakers. Do you feel like this season is less disappointing because they won the in-season tournament?
No. I think people. Okay. I don't think anybody even remembers that anymore. I don't. You know what I mean? It was cool in the moment. It was nice, the colorful courts and everything. But now it's money time, man. Laker Nation ain't caring about the in-season tournament. They're like, man, what are y'all doing right now? And you know, they lost. Who they lose for the season? Gabe Vincent. They lost Vanderbilt, and they lost. Who was the third guy? Christian Wood for the season. And so I think stick a fork in the Lakers, man.
I think it's disappointing to the degree where it's not full on disappointment in the regards of like how the in-season tournament is is in this equation, because they're still in play-in category. So they could still make a run and be like, oh, well, you see, the play-in still gave you a prediction of how well they were able to perform and what they could do, because, you know, you got the Pacers on the other side. They're currently 6th in the East. So there's still some legs to it saying, hey, this in-season tournament can be a preview for what the postseason could be. Now, if the Lakers, you know, are just completely out of the play-in category, let's say the Rockets just pass them and knock them out, then I don't know. Maybe you start looking at the in-season tournament, even though I still find it fun with a different lens.
My disappointment is gonna be, I got to go with Detroit, man. I got to go with Detroit. Was I
Weren't they a
expecting?
walking disappointment entering the season, though?
Sure, absolutely.
It's fair though because they wanted to win.
They wanted to win. They
yeah,
wanted to win, and they stacked the roster up with rookies. They got Cade, they got Ivy, they have Asar Thompson, you have Jalen Duren, you have all these guys, and you spend 6 years, $78 million on Monty Williams, highest paid coach in the year after he never wanted the job to begin with. So you kind of started off on a bad foot right off the gates. They brought in vet after vet, from Burks to Bogdanovich to Joe Harris. They brought in all these guys, and they've won 12 games and lost 50-something odd games. No direction right now. You get rid of Killian Hayes. They just waived him. That's how bad the pick was.
You get nothing in return for him.
You get nothing from return. You have Cade Cunningham, who, I wouldn't be surprised if he asked for a trade next year and got up out of there, because right now he's really just wasting away. There's just no direction with this team. And no, I didn't expect them to be a playoff team or world beaters, but certainly way more competitive than they have been this year. They have no shooting, no leadership. The coach has been ineffective, unimpactful for this team. And this is a team with Troy Reeve at the helm that just looks like they have no direction right now. So they're in trouble. That's my biggest disappointment, easily.
Yeah, it's really disappointing when it comes to Cade Cunningham, because he had this issue at Oklahoma State where there was no spacing around him. And you mentioned the shooting. It's the same thing now. And we never got to see the best version of Cade Cunningham. And it's really a bummer, because I believe like he's truly a talented player and will become an all-star once he gets right in the right situation. Like, just so talented, like the pace and space he plays with, 3-level score, could play both sides of the floor. Like, the guy doesn't have too many weaknesses. The only weakness is the team around him.
He's got to save his career, man. Get up out of there. I think that's the bottom line. Burn the bridge, Al, and save yourself, man, because he's in trouble if he stays there. He's never going to be anything.
I mean, the thing is that, once again, you got to wait until next season to see what happens.
Yeah.
But next season, I mean, what gives you any indication that they're going to move forward in the right direction next year? Because they were doing that last year. They didn't do that the year prior. I mean, this team, hasn't made the playoffs since they had Blake Griffin and Andre Drummond on that roster? Like, good Lord. So this team has just been god-awful. But you have these guys. And the thing I think is more confusing, CP, and obviously it's a good team to choose as a disappointment, but Jaden Ivey, man, I mean, he was even in the starting rotation. You had Killian Hayes playing over him. That's where this whole thing is confusing, where last season you got Jaden Ivey. This is supposed to be the backcourt, the Cadillac backcourt of the future, right? You have Jaden Ivey next to Cade Cunningham, and yet to begin the year, you put Killian Hayes out there, and it's like, what does Jaden Ivey have to earn?
Yeah.
Well, what is Monty Williams proving here at this moment where Jaden Ivey is coming off the bench and he's supposed to be this electric guy, but the way that this roster is built, man, as Andrew said, there's no spacing. This team is just, there's no direction, CP, as you've been saying. So, I would like to see we always look forward to the young rosters, right? We look forward to what these young guys can do, whether it be the Pistons, you look at the Rockets team, you look at all these young teams, be like, okay, can they take the next step in the right direction to show that there's some development going on there? Because they will at some point be the face, maybe not the face, but be part of that mold of the league. And you're not even getting that for Detroit right now. And you got Jalen Duren out there, who is a talented center. And between Ivy, Cade, and Duren and Thompson, they're not doing anything.
Biggest surprise. Who's your biggest surprise?
My biggest surprise has to be OKC. I mean, that team went from play-in to we own the West right now. That team is just rolling. And the fact that you get Chet Holmgren back, that changes the entire dynamic of this team. It just, how can you not be surprised what the Thunder are doing right now? SGA is taking another level in production, another year where he's averaging over 30 points per game. You see Jalen Williams taking a step forward and being that secondary scorer for that roster. Chet just being a solid stretch big for them, solid rim protector as well. I mean, you got a solid foundation here in OKC. You got Lou Dort, who's your defensive switchblade. Like, he'll take on any matchup possible. You got a solid bench with Isaiah Joe and the other Jalen Williams coming off the bench as well. Like, this is a very good young team. Solid move to get Gordon Hayward for that roster during the deadline. But I'm just curious how they're going to be moving forward, because, we always talk about Chet being moved to the 4 and go getting a legit center. Imagine if you had Steven Adams on this team still and he was healthy. This team would be totally different. That versatility at the front court. But for me, the way you look at the Thunder is not only are they impressive this season, but the years to come, because you kind of figure out you kind of know what they need. It's the 5. So once they get that situated, this team is just off and rolling.
Andrew.
What if I told you guys that the Orlando Magic have 3 less wins than the Milwaukee Bucks?
Yeah.
3 less wins. I mean, I love everything that they're doing. They're building around their 2 best players when it comes to Paolo and Franz. I truly believe that this will be on the debate shows soon once this team really starts doing damage. Like, who's Batman? Who's Robin? Because they're both really, really good, and sometimes it's hard to tell. Feels like Paolo right now, because Franz is not quite shooting it as well, even though he's having a great season. Feels like Paolo might be Batman, but I think that's a debate for years to come in a good way. Jalen Suggs, I mean, he always showed that he could play defense, but the shooting is a lot better this year, shooting over 40% from 3. That's really important with a team that lacks shooting. I love that they brought in Joe Ingles as a veteran, even though he looks old. And I know he had some funny stuff going on with the Knicks. He's there, but he's their older veteran presence. Wendell Carter Jr. always solid. I think just like the Rockets, they're not in tank mode, right? They're far from tank mode now. They're number 5 in the East. But with their young players, it was a winning situation. Like, it was a winning atmosphere. And Jamal Mosley brought a lot of that with his defensive mentality and got those guys really playing. And he got his contract extension, which he really deserves. He's been doing a great job, and I love everything the Orlando Magic have been doing, and I think it has been a surprise in the East.
I'll go with Minnesota. Another team that kind of went from the basement.
The land of 10,000 lakes.
Yeah, the basement to the rooftop, man. They were finished 8th in the West last year. First round exit after, the whole play-in hysteria and Pat Beverly crying and all over the place with the theatrics. To be hovering around first, I mean, they're still right there. The 1.5 games out of first, and OKC, Denver, Minnesota, that's going to be a dogfight until the end of the season. But to see how they've been able to rise up in the West, not necessarily offensively, but really defensively has been their calling card all year with Jaden McDaniels, Ant-Man playing at an exceptional level. You've gotten better with the tandem usage out of the tandem of Karl Anthony Towns when he was healthy and Rudy Gobert. They've been getting some quality veteran play from Conley and from Slow-Mo. They've really been able to bring it together. You got to give Chris Finch a lot of credit. Good team in the West, 28-17 this year against teams 500 or better. So they're able to take care of business. And again, offensively, they still get in their ruts. They still struggle to score at times, but this is a team that's been holding it down, man. And if you can do that in the West, you've had nothing short of an absolutely outstanding season. How will they move forward without Cat and into the playoffs? We'll have to see. But as far as regular season goes, I definitely wasn't expecting to see them at the top of the West, especially coming from 8th in the West last year. Yeah, I expected some improvement, but I still thought that the Cat and Gobert situation would have been a little bit sticky. They've done a great job of making that adjustment. Naz Reid has come off the bench and performed very, very well for them. So I got to go with Soda as my – and you know what? And also this year they've been able to navigate – there was a lot of situations, a lot of games where they had issues with maturity or closing games or trying to, really be or handle business the way a contender would. And they've been able to kind of get through that. Right now, still within a game and a half of first, man. So I'm going to go with Soda, man.
Yeah. Naz Reid, one of the most underrated players in the NBA, and Rudy just looks a lot more healthy, right? He's just playing better this season, and that meant everything. And then Ant gets better every season. So his career moving forward is going to be so much fun to watch.
No question about it, man. Final topic, fellas. The G League Ignite is no more, man. The team that brought you players like Jonathan Kuminga, Dyson Daniels, Moses Moody. No, not Moses Moody, sorry. Jalen Green.
Yeah.
And most recently, Scoot Henderson. G League Ignite is shutting its doors, man. They're 6-40 this year in the G League. The worst point differential in the history of the G League. This is a team that's supposed to have your rising stars in the NBA of one-and-done players getting completely scraped out there. And Adam Silver and the NBA points to the rise in the NILs, man. Kids are going to college to get the bag, and that kind of made the G League Ignite team not necessarily, for afterthought, but they had competition there, man.
Big disappointment.
I mean, the league decided to shut it down. Al, go ahead.
It's not shocking. I'm gonna give a shout out to Andrew, my guy over here, because he had Keandre from Hoop Intellect discuss this very same topic.
Yeah.
And you guys broke it out very well. You have young guys who are all competing for the same interest of wanting to be that star. And then if you have all those guys competing to be a star, you're really going to play team basketball, or you're going to be all worried about getting your own so that way you look good. And so, I mean, that's just kind of the nature of the beast at this point, where how can you get all these guys to buy in for 1 year and then say, hey, let's play as a team. You all will get selected in the draft or make whatever amounts of money you will in the future. That's just a tough proposition to give those guys. So it's not like you're going to college or a college team where, you know, the coach is like, this is where I see you going, right? Because if you're going to the G League, it's kind of saying, I'm better than college. I believe that I'm NBA talent ready. Because if you go to college, you got to go through the whole process of like, am I going to play this year? Am I going to get redshirted? Am I actually good enough to be starting on this roster, right? I mean, sure, coach is going to talk to you, recruit you, and give you all the spiel to make sure you join their roster, but it's not as straightforward. Whereas it's not as straightforward as where the G League is the sole purpose. And that's how it's branded as young guys ready to go to the NBA at some point. And it just wasn't that.
Damn, it never even ignited.
Never ignited. It never ignited, man. Andrew, go ahead with your takes on this one.
Oh, just disappointing, man. And that, like my conversation with Keandre, a lot of that is true. But I also do think that like they gave up too early, man. Like, try some things, try and create some culture. I mean, they did the thing where they were letting them play in the All-Star game. Just say like, oh, the NIL is here, we're going to just shut it down.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was a little bit surprised. I feel like they could do a better job overall in the G League, like just creating a culture. Like, I feel like there's no buzz at all. Nobody cares. And I understand it's their minor league, but I think they have to do a better job with the G League, and they could have tried some creative ways to make the G League Ignite better. I mean, Adam Silver has in-season tournaments and play-in tournaments and all kinds of ideas for the NBA. Why not like try some different things with the G League Ignite? 3 years ago, it was like alternative passes of the wave when Melo was going to Australia and we started the G League Ignite. And then a few years later, it was Overtime Elite. And like, oh, what's happening to college basketball? Yeah. So college basketball gets the NIL, like, and you just lose all your steam and give up. I don't know. I just feel like they gave up too early and they should have tried something. I know it's a challenge, but that's life. Like, you got to fight through some challenges.
Yeah, I'm surprised, you know, a machine like the NBA with dollars and with big pockets and with access to big pockets, that they bailed on this so fast. You know, could they have increased some of the wages? Scoot was getting $1 million. Jalen Green was getting $500,000. The initial entry wage was $125,000. Then the NILs came through and was like, we got Bronny making $6 million. Who's Hansel Emmanuel, Austin P made $101.2 million, and Jared McCain at Duke made $1 million this year, going to Duke. So yeah, there was certainly competition there, but I'm very surprised that the NBA, you know, didn't look to maybe raise the stakes or something like that. But you guys hit the nail on the head in terms of how the rosters are assembled. The roster is assembled in a clunky way. When you have these guys that are going to these big schools, most of the time they're going with guaranteed starting spots. Most of the time they're going where they can be the guy, except for maybe like a Kentucky or, you know, some of these NBA draft factories that you have. You're going to have to kind of make your way. But with the G League, you're all in one team. So you may not have the most balanced roster. You may not have good vets to put in there, maybe a good point guard or somebody who can kind of be the extension of the coach on the floor. So now you got guys that are basically, there's nothing to play for. It's not like the G League championship means anything. So now you guys it's basically every man for himself. I got to shine, I got to shine, I got to shine. And then you're going up against players who, on other teams in the G League, who, you got guys who are 28, 29, 30, fighting for their dinner. Like, yo, listen, I'm fighting for my livelihood here. So I think it was all in all just made for really a bad mix and a bad pot.
But then why are we shocked then? Why would we be shocked that they closed it out, like they just gave up on the process? Because CP, you just said it. You got the rest of the league where it's meant for development, right? You have guys who are fighting to get into the NBA, who know that they've already gone through the process. They probably were good in college. They tried to get drafted. They didn't get drafted. They went to summer league. They didn't make it through summer league. And now they got to work on their game and go through the process to make it there. These guys haven't gone through that hardship that these guys have gone through. And so when they're there, they're thinking, maybe I don't want to speak for everybody, but it's like, if I'm here right now, maybe I'm going to go to the NBA and I'm going to be situated and be fine and taken care of. But that's just not the case. So, and I think from Adam Silver's perspective, if you're just funneling that and you don't see a competitive product, how can you continue to market that? Then you're just losing money at that point because, look, I enjoy going to G League games. They're very cheap. Watching the Westchester Knicks in White Plains, man, it costs what, $15 to go through? You pay $50, you can go sit courtside, go get a full-on entree for watching the game. But then, are you going to remember anybody that played in that game? Timeouts are legitimately 15 minutes. There's no commercial breaks. There's nothing like that. You go through and it's over. You walk out. It's like a regular, hey, we just watched a high school game almost, and then it's all over. So, Are you guys watching the league? Do you guys tune into the G League every single night?
No, sir.
Look, we love basketball, but it's like if you're not tuning in for like a regular G League game, what is going to incentivize you now to go watch some of these guys play? Unless like you're really into the draft,
then
the draft procedure.
Yeah, like you said, then you can't really in that way. You can't really advocate for higher salaries if the interest isn't there. But
bro, $15 a game. What do you expect to get?
Yeah, I just think given the NBA, they should have rethought or just re-engineered the process, but instead they kind of bailed, which is interesting.
I think watching the Fort Wayne Mad Ants.
Yeah, the Mad Ants. I think NBL is definitely killing them when it comes to that with their Rising Stars program. You had LaMelo come out of there, R.J. Hampton, Josh Giddey came out of there. NBL is definitely kind of the shining example right now for the one and done players, and probably producing better NBA ready players out of that program than the NBA was with G League Ignite.
Yeah, it's better culture. I mean, those championships mean something over there. They have a huge fan base,
right?
As you guys said, like nobody really cares about the G League championship, but people in Australia care about that NBL title. It means a lot to them. And, you start to realize that once you're there, you're not just in like a glorified AAU program. You're playing for something and you're trying to win.
Yeah.
Andrew, you played professionally, internationally. You could speak to this. It's true. You took every single game seriously. You got paid. I'm sure you got paid well. You got living, all that stuff situated for yourself. So out there, and it's like,
those fans are
game.
Those fans are crazy.
In the G League.
Yeah, I mean, those fans are crazy, bro. It's like they're more extreme than the fans here. That's for sure. Like, so it's really something to play for. And I mean, every win, you're on top of the world. Every loss, it's like, like you guys are kind of like the guys who keep it level-headed for the Knicks fans, right? Like you two, like you guys keep, like there is no level-headedness overseas from nobody. Like when you win, you won the championship. One game, when you lose, it's the end of the world. Get rid of everybody. Like, so yeah, it's definitely a different mentality over there.
Yeah, that's funny, man. Well, we'll see what happens, man. As NILs are starting to take over, you got the NCAA in a frenzy. People are going to Congress to talk about it. So the kids are getting the bag as they should, man. Too many times, too many years, you having these schools making multi-million dollars off of these kids' backs. It's time to pay up, man. Cut the check and let these kids eat as well. So it's a good problem to have when you're talking about these kids. So either way, great show, fellas. Salute to everybody in the chat once again. Hit that thumbs up button for you boys. CP Alex Andrew in the building. Tune in this week for more episodes of Combos Court on the NBA Report. And also tap into Knicks Fan TV, man. We'll be back on Knicks Fan TV tonight for Knicks Weekly. And there it is, man. Remember that these shows are available in audio podcast format. No reason to miss it. If you did miss it, catch us on the replay. Salute to the replay gang. And once again, man, like, share, subscribe. Great show, fellas. We out here. Peace.
Great show.